Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is dedicated to solo traveling. I have traveled to 6 countries solo, and I'm often asked by my friends and people I know, how do I solo travel? How do I plan a trip alone? How do I even feel comfortable traveling single and alone out into the world? Although I'm not an expert by any means, I've only dabbled in the last few years in solo traveling and mainly solo traveled in European countries. I've been to places like Paris, Crete, Malta. I've been to Croatia. I went to Amsterdam, to London. So many fun places that I traveled solo. If you're thinking about traveling abroad for your first time as a solo traveler, I wanted to help and dedicate this video to share my advice, my tips on what I use to plan my solo trips, and wanted to give it a perspective as a female solo traveler in her 20s who really loves traveling the globe. So I hope you enjoy this video and find it useful. I'm so glad you clicked this video. I did want to start the video first by talking about if solo traveling has been on your mind, but you've always been a bit scared or it feels daunting to go abroad somewhere. I think the best thing we can do is first kind of do baby steps and do small experiences. This could look like so many things. It could be just taking yourself out to eat alone at a nice restaurant, walk in the park alone. It could be going to a concert alone. Just doing small experiences alone, even take a day trip, take a train or a bus or drive in your cars to some new neighborhood or a new place you haven't visited before. Really take yourself on solo dates and expose yourself to new experiences and doing them alone. Really manages to boost your confidence, your independence, and it's a really good way to gain a bit more exposure to doing things alone before you take those experiences and go abroad. I would first kind of be real with yourself, like, have you done a few solo dates in your local area? How comfortable are you alone? And from there, really explore the possibilities of doing your first solo trip. And just to encourage you a bit further, if you haven't done your first solo trip yet, is from my experiences, I have loved solo traveling. It's been so rewarding, so much flexibility. You can do what you want to do when you want to do it. And I love learning about history and cultures and just seeing the world. So if you need any more encouragement on how these experiences go, I promise you, you will love it once you get started and have these experiences traveling alone. So without further ado, here are my best tips for planning your trip abroad. First category is choosing your destination, the time of year you're going to be doing this trip, as well as your budget considerations. Let's be real, we need money to travel, we need to budget for it. So whatever you are doing prior to your trip to save money, that is great. But also I think it's important to consider your destinations and the time of year you're traveling, because many places, maybe certain times of year are peak season, so you'll notice flights are more expensive, hotels, etc. And I think it's also good to consider weather conditions. And an example, if you're doing a trip somewhere in the Caribbean, but you're wanting to go in September through November, that can be quite risky given it is hurricane season, or weather conditions are not as favorable during this time. So these are things to research and consider before you take your trip, as well as what is the local currency of the countries that you're interested in visiting. I think it's good to know what the exchange rates are, and that way you can also, once you choose your destination, know what currency to get. On the budget side, it's also good to know what is your basic minimum spend, what is the average accommodation price in that place, as well as what is the flights or transportation like to get there. So how you get there is important, where you want to go, and what are the conditions. Some helpful tips in this category are looking up, again, the currency. Is this a peak time of year that other tourists go to this destination? Are you okay with that? And you're someone that likes to be around really populated areas? Do you want something more relaxing? These are things to consider. Are there visas required as well? Or look up travel advisories. I think, if you want to feel safe, it's a good idea to check your resources. For Canadians, we have the travel advisory website, travel.gc.ca, so you can type in your destination and then it'll pop up some travel advisories to look out for. When it comes to budgeting and pricing, I love tools like Skyscanner and Google Flights. Those are my go-tos. And even beyond that, if you have some time ahead, you can actually add a tracker to Google Flights to track the pricings if they go up or down for the flights that you're looking into. And Skyscanner, I just kind of like to do it as an overall browse, pop in the dates I want to go away, and then see what comes up in terms of explore worldwide. Are there any cheaper flights and destinations that I could take advantage of during those times of year? Next, for your accommodation, there are so many options for accommodation, from Airbnb to Hostelworld, hotels. And I really am someone that tends to use Airbnb. I just personally like the experience of living somewhere sometimes more locally and having that flexibility with price, because price can definitely vary. Say if you get a room in a shared house on Airbnb, that can be much cheaper than getting a 3 to 5 star hotel. And hostels, are shared accommodation. Some hostels do have private rooms, but just depends on your comfortability. I'm a big advocate for Airbnb, so I use that quite a bit to book my accommodation. I also use Hostelworld, but to look up reviews on hostels, but I would never recommend booking an accommodation through a third-party website. Always book your accommodation at the actual official website of the place. Another really cool alternative to traveling solo on accommodations is pet and house sitting. So one app that is commonly used is Trusted House Sitters. I've been a member of Trusted House Sitters in the past. It is a yearly subscription service where it connects you to pet owners and homeowners across the globe, where they're looking for someone to house sit and pet sit their pets. And if you have more flexibility, I would say this is a good option for you, because it does take time to apply to these pet sitting gigs. And if you're not so linear on what your destination is, it could open up a lot of new places that you haven't thought of. But it definitely holds obviously more responsibility. You're looking after somebody's home and their pet, as well as it might be more of a home body, less go-go activity-based trip. But if that's something you consider and you would like to do, it is a really good way to be flexible on budget, because in exchange for your services for looking after the home and the pet, then you get free accommodation. So that really does help. So I would consider that if that's something that interests you. And the last tip for budget considerations is I'm a huge fan of the debit cards that can hold multiple currencies. These are cards that are like Monzo, Wise, Revolut, are the 3 main common ones that I know of. I always carry some cash with me when traveling, but definitely card is king. At least that's what it seems to be, especially if you're going to really big cities to visit. Just the ease of having multiple currencies and a card that you can use on ATMs or just to tap and swipe really helps. So I would look into applying for one of those multiple currency debit cards if you don't have one already. Makes it super easy to look up currency exchange rates, load some money on your card, and then just have no problems with knowing where your money is and how you could spend your money while abroad. Now let's talk about the fun stuff, activities. What can you do to make the most out of your trip in your destination? I love this part because this is where you actually experience things abroad. A few recommendations for this is before your trip and when you're planning your activities, definitely use your apps like Get Your Guide or Viator Facebook groups are so underrated. There are so many, and you can just connect to so many people and so many other solo travelers if that's something you're looking to do. I've done this in my Dubrovnik trip. I was posting and looking up on my Facebook groups and posted that I was going to be in Dubrovnik around these dates, and that I would love to catch up with any other female solo travelers. So, and then we ended up meeting with one of the girls who was also happened to be doing solo traveling in the same city. So then we met up for a beer. We then met up every day after that for dinner. So just really nice to connect before your trip if it's a possibility with people, just so that you also kind of have someone else to hang out with if you're feeling more social and extroverted. So yeah, I really recommend it, and it was really fun to connect with another female solo traveler, and we just had really great dinners like every day, like together, and spoke about what we did that day, and it was a really good exchange. Other resources are like social media. Why not use YouTube, TikTok, Instagram to look up what are other people's, what are locals doing in that place, what are other tourists like to do in that destination. I think YouTube is a great resource. Look up travel vloggers, and that can just really lead to inspiration and to book some stuff, some really good recommendations. I really use heavily the Get Your Guide app. I really like it. I've done family trip activities on it, as well as solo stuff. I've done walking tours, all day tours, cooking classes. Really, there's anything for anyone's interest, so definitely take a look at what's available in the destination that you're going to be visiting. And then the other tool I love to use is Apple Maps, Google Maps, and TripAdvisor. I like to look at reviews, but mainly use the Maps applications to look up on the map where I'm going and actually save my addresses and destinations. So if I booked a hotel, then I'll add that to my map, save it to my map, so that way I have it on me. And even if I don't have internet, you can download the maps from Google. So if you don't have internet for some reason, you can still see the map and then have on hand your key addresses. So these could be your hotel, your meeting points for your tours that you book, and just like points of interest in general. What is it really like to travel alone, and how do we be comfortable being on our own abroad? There are some, few safety tips that I would recommend, and I just think comfortability is key here, no matter if this is your first solo trip or your sixth solo trip. Every destination can be different, so I just think some key things and basics are good to remember. So the first is, whenever you are planning a trip, please, share your location with a friend or family member through WhatsApp or find your phone, and also tell your friends and close family where you are going, what is your plans. This just helps for security basic reasons. Always make sure your belongings are on you. This is great to get like a fanny pack, or just don't, wear too flashy things. Really stick to basics, but definitely keep your valuables on you. I like to always kind of bring a lock with me in case like there are lockers or that option. And then I also look up online if I do have a lot of luggage, for example. There are quite a few luggage storage or locker options that could be available to you that you could use throughout the day if you are like out and about. So those are good things to consider. But generally, I like to have sort of like a fanny pack or like a close like crossbody bag, nothing too flashy and things like that. And always lock up my belongings and know where my belongings are, and generally keep my valuable documents on me, like a bit of cash, my cards, my identification cards, and passport. Another kind of just nice thing to know, I think in general, but I think a lot of us, if you think about it, maybe don't actually remember, is to remember like at least 1 or 2 phone numbers of someone you could call. Say your belongings go missing and you need to call someone, have maybe a number memorized that you could use. This could also just be the general emergency numbers in the country you're traveling, but it also would be good to memorize, say, your mom's number or your dad's number or a friend that's nearby, just somebody's number in your head, so you have someone to contact. I think the most important thing on being comfortable traveling alone is really be real. Be real of how your comfort zone is and splurge when necessary on things that make you feel safe. Safety and your comfortability should never be like stretched out. Like really be real with what you're comfortable with and how you feel safe, because that is the most important thing to do. We don't want to disrupt our nervous system in this instance at all. And also with that, be gentle with yourself. If you're wanting to be a bit more out of your comfort zone, but please don't be afraid to stay in it, because that's what's keeping you safe ultimately. Splurge on that Bolt and Uber ride in the evening back home instead of taking transit. If you're not comfortable being alone walking around at night or taking public transit, please just splurge and take the Uber or the taxi. Try to know where your valuables are at all times. Be aware of your surroundings, keeping them on you at all times. Book those luggage lockers, or if you have too many items that you're carrying around, don't be afraid to book that locker, store some things, have some peace of mind, and splurge on those just added safety things for your belongings. And then when you're going out in the day, just bring what you are needing for the day. Try to stick with bringing minimum cash and just your important documents for identification reasons. And definitely have a phone charger. I always use my portable phone charger. Yeah, important to have your devices charged. But also, don't be afraid to ask locals questions. If you're feeling uncertain about something, or even if you're in a situation where you're feeling unsafe or something's off, don't be afraid to connect with someone, a local, an official person, a worker, and just say, this is making me uncomfortable. Some type of thing to have someone else aware that there's a situation happening. When it comes to accommodations, I've said previously I really liked Airbnb. I've stayed at hostels. I've stayed sometimes at hotels. But if booking a private hotel is definitely worth it for you, definitely splurge on it. I know hotels offer sometimes 24-hour security, more of a, security in general, like being in a hotel versus an Airbnb or a hostel where you're sharing a room. So if you feel more comfortable doing a private space or a hotel, definitely splurge on it. Your comfortability is worth it. And finally, I just wanted to share some products and things I like to bring on my trip when I'm out and about. So when I'm on vacation on my solo trip, I usually have my fanny pack, and I keep usually a bit of cash, my card that has the multiple currencies on it. So I use Wise. I usually bring my passport, my set of keys if I'm staying at Airbnb, as well as I like to bring a water bottle with me that I can reuse. Staying hydrated is especially important. And at least a lot of European places that I've traveled to, there are free water access points. So that's been really nice to save money and also to keep hydrated when you're having long days walking and being around. I like my hand sanitizer as well. And I always bring my portable phone charger, adapters, and I also like to bring my sunscreen. And the one thing I do purchase or I look up before I leave is my eSIM, or if my phone plan offers travel plan abroad, or if it's included in my phone plan. So things like an eSIM from Airlo could be a great option if you're looking to travel abroad and you really need your service. I recommend having phone service and just having data overall. It just feels a bit more safer and comfortable. In the digital age we're living in, it's it's kind of good to have for photos and other stuff as well. Overall, I really like to just carry some essentials, but the main thing is that you're here to have fun on a solo trip. Another thing I tend to do is solo trips, I tend to keep it light in terms of packing. I do sort of a capsule wardrobe. I do a carry-on only. That usually is one of my big backpacks that I have. And I just make sure to have like some local currency and to have all my identification cards. So yeah, packing light is honestly key, because even in your day-to-day activities, having that little fanny pack or just like a small wallet is definitely better than carrying around really large luggage all day. Again, you still have the luggage storage options or maybe a safe in your hotel room, but I think it's really great to pack light on solo trips. If it's your first time planning a solo trip, I am so excited for you. You're gonna have so much fun. Please don't feel like it's too daunting, and if you do, take those little solo dates and expose yourself to new environments. That really helps get you to build your confidence to do this trip abroad. I have traveled to so many places I love. I can't recommend enough, like Paris, Amsterdam, Malta was beautiful. Croatia was such a great destination as well. There's just so many destinations you could go to. That is everything that I wanted to share on how to plan your solo trip. I'm so excited for you to jump into this new adventure. Please share your experiences and your advice down below in the comments. Would love to make a little exchange and hear our stories on solo traveling abroad. Best of luck, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.